Hello, this is Scrap Paper with a Steven Universe video. This time around, I'd just like to make it a discussion piece and not a theory video, just to see how things play out in this next Steven bomb, and take a break for a little while on trying to predict things. Instead, let's try to take a look and discuss a bit about what already we know about the show and Steven. So I guess this would be a new segment on my channel then. So let's call it Talking About the Universe. Now, to kick this thing off, let's discuss a topic that I've been thinking about ever since the beginning of Season 2. That topic would be Steven's education. It's a subject that I've been thinking about for a while now, and, well, ever since Steven admitted to Connie that he has no idea what a school even is, but is seemingly to have comprehensible knowledge on reading, spelling, math, and I guess somewhat basic science. Everybody remember that one scene with Peridot and Steven when it was raining at the temple? And it's pretty apparent now in the show that Steven doesn't actively desire to know history, whether it's human history or even gem history. Well, other than that one time Pearl tried to show him gem history with Lapis's mirror. And as for his powers, the crystal gems don't really seem to be actively really teaching him how to use his powers. Instead, they kind of opt out on having him figure out that type of stuff by himself. Sure, they'll give him the occasional advice on how to activate his powers, but other than that, they kind of go with the hands-off approach on teaching him, or, well, I guess teaching is kind of a strong word, more like occasional advice is more like it, considering they're the only ones that really know how Rose's powers work, and they choose not to mention it to Steven until after he uncovers that power for himself. For example, that one time when Steven was eating watermelon with his dad, and suddenly an army of watermelon Steven popped up. Then they choose to mention that Rose could control plant life. They don't mention that Steven has healing powers, or Rose had healing powers, until Amethyst's gem became cracked and they desperately needed his powers to work. And currently, they don't even mention that Steven could float in midair until he was literally stuck in the sky nearly a day. So I guess all the learning is left up to Greg to teach Steven on what he needs to know. Everything from his basic reading, writing, math, and science education to any other miscellaneous subjects that Steven needs to know. So, at the end of the day, how smart is Steven? Well, I'd like to think his intelligence is no greater or worse than any of us. But I guess his education does have some holes in it, considering that he didn't even know what a school was until Connie brought it up. It's almost like he's an alien on his own planet sometimes. And that brings around in question his social skills. Now, this won't be a spite on homeschool kids. In fact, sometimes learning from home could be very beneficial, but how he behaves towards certain situations kind of puzzles me. Now, for his social skills could be split between human interaction and gem interactions. Well, for gem interactions, let's not count the crystal gems, considering they're pretty much family to him. So let's look at his interactions with homeworld gems. Sure, he befriended Lapis, but she was imprisoned for thousands of years and was pretty much desperate for any contact at all. And Peridot, well, gradually became his friend because she was made to learn and adjust to Earth. Steven had to teach Peridot things and not the other way around. So it's pretty safe to say that if he was on Homeworld, he would probably have no clue on what to do and how to interact with other gems. And as for his interactions with humans, well, he does a lot better in that certain area, but he was raised on Earth after all. But most of his friends are either older than him or younger than him. His only friend be considered in the same age group would be Connie, and before she met Steven, she was a social outcast as well, admitting that she had no friends before him. Now, let's reel it back for a second and know that this is a discussion about Steven's education, and not his upbringing. But Scraps, you may ask, his social skills is a big part of his upbringing. Well, yes, but let's try to look at it more on an educational level. He was homeschooled, so he wasn't aware of the concept of cool or lame or stuff like that, such as the situation with Lars and the cool kids, when Steven just walked right up to them and started hanging out with no issues, while Lars was so nervous to think that the cool kids were so much far above him that he couldn't even approach them. without thinking of a plan on how to. So I guess some of the stuff that Steven didn't learn could be beneficial. And like I said, this isn't a discussion video on Steven's upbringing, considering his character turned out pretty well. He's kind, generous, and sometimes could be a bit too merciful, but he does step up when he needs to. And as his teen years goes on, let's just wait and see on how he turns out. But back to the topic of his education, the last thing I want to discuss about is, why do you think the Crystal Gems never actually teach him anything? I mean, I kinda get why Greg would want to leave anything related to gems, including their history, powers, and all that stuff to them, but I don't really get why they are not more upfront with Steven. I mean, at the beginning of the show, they say he has gem training, but we never actually see him train or actually be instructed by anybody most of the time. And as for his human education, well, Greg did do his best and does seem to be the only authority figure in his life that's even knowledgeable about ordinary human living. So it's fair to say that some stuff, I guess it's okay that, but it does puzzle me why he didn't know what a school was until Connie mentioned it. But I guess we could cut the Crystal Gems some slack, considering, like Garnet said,
we're bad at this. What? Yeah, you can't control him, and he shouldn't be taking advice from me, and we don't have Rose to tell us what to do! But he needs us to show him how to be a gem!
Steven is not just a gem. There has never been anything or anyone like Steven. We don't know what he needs.
So I guess my point really is that there should really be more of a mentor figure in Steven's life. Perhaps a teacher or something? Hey, maybe Bismuth or somebody in future episodes would wind up filling in that mentor role for Steven. Especially somebody with a different viewpoint. Well, tell me what you think about this. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what our young little protagonist has to learn in the future next. I hope this gives you guys something to think about until the new episodes come up. Till then, like, comment, subscribe, and till then.